What if the most honest war stories were the ones you never hear about? Not the loud legends, not the crowd pleasers, but the quiet films that stayed close to real events and refused to clean them up. The 1970s gave us movies that didn't chase comfort or applause. Halfway through this list, you'll notice something unsettling. These films don't build heroes, they watch people endure. And once you spot that pattern, you won't see war movies the same way again. Number 12. Too Late the Hero, 1970. This is not a mission movie, it's a patience test. Too Late the Hero drops you into the Pacific Theater and immediately strips away the idea that plans work the way they're supposed to. Inspired by real Allied sabotage operations, the film follows a small group assigned a task that sounds simple on paper and slowly collapses in practice. What makes this one hit differently is how little it cares about likable characters. Everyone is tired, everyone is calculating. Decisions aren't noble, they're practical. The jungle isn't treated as scenery. It's treated as a pressure cooker that never lets up. Heat, silence, and uncertainty do most of the work. Michael Caine's performance is deliberately restrained. He doesn't lead with speeches or bravado. He watches, he waits. And when action finally happens, it feels messy and irreversible, not cinematic. That's the point. The film reflects real operational failures from the period, where communication delays and wrong assumptions ruined carefully laid plans. There's no triumphant wrap-up, just the quiet realization that survival often depends on timing, not courage. Too Late the Hero doesn't ask you to cheer, it asks you to pay attention, and that's why it still feels honest. Number 11. The McKenzie Break, 1970. If you expect noise, this movie will frustrate you. The McKenzie Break is based on real prisoner escape attempts during the Second World War, but it avoids spectacle almost entirely. Instead, it focuses on planning, observation, and long stretches where nothing happens at all. That restraint is what makes it effective. The story unfolds inside a camp where routines matter. Small habits become clues, minor changes become opportunities. The tension isn't built with chaos, it's built with silence. Brian Keith plays the camp commander with unsettling calm. He isn't cruel or theatrical, he's efficient. That makes him harder to read and more dangerous in a quiet way. The prisoners, meanwhile, are constantly weighing risk versus patience. Every move has consequences that can't be undone. Historically, the film reflects how many real escape attempts failed, not because of bad planning, but because of time, too much waiting, or not enough. There's no rush to judgment here, just a slow tightening of the situation until the outcome feels inevitable. The McKenzie Break respects the intelligence of the viewer and trusts that tension doesn't need volume. It's a thinking person's war film, and those are rare. Number 10. The Last Valley, 1971. This film doesn't show battles, it shows what's left behind. Set during the 30 Years' War, The Last Valley is rooted in real mercenary campaigns that devastated civilian life across Europe. Instead of focusing on clashes, it centers on a hidden village trying to survive as armed groups move through the region. Michael Caine again delivers a performance built on ambiguity. His character isn't a savior. He's a survivor who understands how power shifts when resources run thin. Omar Sharif plays the intellectual observer, constantly questioning whether reason has any place left in a world shaped by force. What makes this film uncomfortable is how relevant it feels. The villagers negotiate, compromise, and surrender pieces of themselves just to delay disaster. That mirrors historical accounts where entire communities were drained long before any direct confrontation happened. The landscapes are beautiful, but they never feel safe. Every quiet moment feels temporary. The film refuses to tell you who deserves sympathy. Everyone is trapped by circumstances larger than them. The Last Valley isn't about victory, it's about erosion. And once that theme sets in, it stays with you long after the film ends. Number 9. Overlord, 1975. This might be the closest cinema ever got to standing inside history. Overlord reconstructs the lead-up to the Normandy landings, using a mix of real archival footage and staged scenes. The result doesn't feel like a movie, it feels like memory. The story follows one young man, but he's never treated as special. He's part of a system: training, preparation, waiting, endless waiting. The film focuses on routine rather than drama, which mirrors real accounts from the period. What sets Overlord apart is its tone. There's no swelling music telling you how to feel. The editing is sharp, sometimes abrupt, like history cutting forward without warning. The black and white visuals blur the line between documentary and narrative until they're indistinguishable. This wasn't made to entertain. It was made to preserve a feeling, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the sense that something enormous is coming and no one knows who it will spare. Overlord doesn't explain history. It places you inside it, and that makes it quietly powerful. Number 8. Go Tell the Spartans, 1978. This is what war looks like before anyone admits it's a war. Based on real early advisory missions in Vietnam, Go Tell the Spartans focuses on a period often skipped in cinema. The phase where confusion outweighs clarity and leadership doesn't know what it's stepping into. Burt Lancaster plays a seasoned officer who understands that the situation is slipping, even as official messaging insists everything is under control. The tension comes from that gap between reality and reassurance. The film avoids spectacle. Most scenes are conversations, patrols, and moments of unease. That reflects historical reporting from the time where progress was measured on paper while conditions worsened on the ground. Nothing here feels dramatic on purpose. Loss arrives quietly. Decisions feel rushed. Support feels distant. That's exactly why historians still praise the film for accuracy. Go Tell the Spartans doesn't shout its message. It lets it sink in. And by the end, you understand why this phase of history still unsettles people today. Number 7. Play Dirty, 1969. This film opens by letting you know the rules don't matter here. Play Dirty is inspired by real special operations carried out in North Africa during the Second World War. But it refuses to frame them as daring adventures. Instead, it treats these missions as desperate, poorly supported, and morally tangled. Michael Caine leads a group sent behind enemy lines with instructions that change depending on who's giving them. Orders are vague, support is thin, and trust between teammates barely exists. That mirrors real accounts from irregular units where clarity often vanished the moment boots hit the ground. What makes Play Dirty stand out is how openly it criticizes leadership. The people giving orders are distant, insulated, and rarely accountable. The ones executing them carry all the risk. That imbalance becomes the real conflict of the story. The setting is harsh and empty, emphasizing isolation rather than excitement. When things go wrong, there's no dramatic pause. Consequences arrive fast and without ceremony. This isn't a story about glory. It's about being sent into situations designed to fail quietly. Play Dirty earned its reputation by refusing to clean up that reality and that honesty is why it still resonates decades later. Number 6. Soldier of Orange, 1977. This one begins before the war knows it's coming. Soldier of Orange is based on real Dutch resistance figures during the Second World War, adapted from first-hand memoirs. What makes it hit harder than expected is how ordinary life feels at the start. Friends, classes, parties, small ambitions. Then history interrupts. Paul Verhoeven directs the story with restraint early on, allowing relationships to form naturally before pressure fractures them. When the occupation begins, choices arrive without warning. Some resist, some cooperate, some freeze. The film never judges them outright, and that honesty reflects real resistance records where survival often dictated behavior. Rutger Hauer's performance anchors the film. He isn't fearless. He's reactive. Each step forward feels earned, not scripted. Missions don't unfold cleanly. Information is incomplete. Trust becomes fragile. These details mirror real underground operations, where uncertainty was constant. What stands out most is how the film treats loyalty. It shifts, it breaks, it surprises. History books simplify resistance. Soldier of Orange complicates it. By the end, victory doesn't feel triumphant. It feels costly. That emotional weight is why this film endured long after its release and why it remains one of the most authentic resistance stories of the 1970s. Number 5. The Ascent, 1977. This film feels like a test of endurance for both its characters and the viewer. The Ascent is based on real partisan and resistance in occupied Eastern Europe, adapted from first-hand accounts. It follows two fighters sent in what should be a routine supply mission that turns into something far more severe. The setting is brutal. Snow, wind, silence. Every step feels heavy. Nature isn't background decoration here. It's an obstacle that constantly threatens to break people down. What makes the Ascent unforgettable is its focus on choice. Under pressure, characters reveal who they are, not through speeches, but through small decisions. The film doesn't rush these moments. It lets them breathe, making them uncomfortable to watch. There's very little action in the traditional sense. Instead, tension builds through stillness and observation. Faces matter more than movement. That reflects how real resistance often depended on restraint rather than force. The Ascent refuses easy answers. It doesn't reward bravery or punish fear in predictable ways. It simply shows the cost of being pushed beyond your limits. This is not a crowd pleaser. It's a serious, demanding film. And that's exactly why it remains one of the most truthful war stories of its era. Number 4. The Battle of Sutjeska, 1973. This is scale used for memory, not spectacle. The Battle of Sutjeska recreates a real 1943 campaign involving partisan forces surrounded by much larger opposing armies. Unlike many large productions, this one was made close to the actual locations and with national memory in mind. Thousands of extras were used, many of whom had lived through similar events. That gives the film a weight that can't be faked. Movement feels coordinated, but strained. Fatigue shows. Confusion spreads. What's remarkable is how the film balances size with focus. While massive formations appear on screen, the story constantly returns to individual moments of endurance, carrying the wounded, navigating terrain, making impossible choices under pressure. There's a sense throughout the film that retreat isn't failure, it's survival. That perspective aligns closely with historical accounts of the campaign, which emphasized resilience over victory. The Battle of Sutjeska doesn't rush. It allows events to unfold at their own pace, mirroring the drawn-out nature of the real operation. This is history presented as lived experience, not legend. And that's why it still stands tall among 70s war cinema. Number 3. Cross of Iron, 1977. This film strips away the illusion that perspective changes reality. Cross of Iron is loosely based on real Eastern Front accounts, told from the viewpoint of ordinary soldiers caught between collapsing leadership and relentless pressure. What immediately sets it apart is its tone. There's no attempt to soften the environment or explain motivations. The film assumes chaos is already understood. Orders feel arbitrary. Discipline feels strained. Loyalty feels conditional. James Coburn plays a leader who commands respect not through rank, but through experience. He understands the ground reality better than those issuing commands from safety. That tension drives much of the conflict. The film is visually raw. Movement is frantic. Cuts are abrupt. The environment feels hostile and unpredictable. That reflects how veterans often describe the Eastern Front, not as a series of battles, but as constant instability. Cross of Iron doesn't ask you to sympathize. It asks you to observe, and by doing so, it exposes how systems break down long before people do. It's uncomfortable, it's relentless, and it refuses to offer relief. That honesty is exactly why it belongs near the top of this list. Number 2, Waterloo, 1970. This is history presented at full scale. Without apology, Waterloo recreates the famous final battle of Napoleon with staggering commitment to accuracy. Thousands of real soldiers were used instead of effects, resulting in formations that move like history, not choreography. The film doesn't rush. It shows planning, miscalculations, delays, and weather playing decisive roles. That patience reflects real historical analysis of the battle, where timing mattered more than bravery. Rod Steiger's Napoleon is not glorified. He's exhausted, overconfident, struggling to control events already slipping away. Opposing commanders are equally restrained, emphasizing coordination rather than theatrics. What makes Waterloo unusual is its refusal to dramatize emotion. There are no soaring speeches, no triumphant cues, just movement, consequence, and exhaustion. That approach aligns with modern historical understanding of the battle as a collapse driven by small failures compounding rapidly. The terrain itself becomes a character. Mud slows advances. Visibility shifts outcomes. These environmental details are historically documented and rarely portrayed so accurately. Waterloo earns its place near the top because it treats history as process, not legend. Watching it feels less like entertainment and more like witnessing time unfold. Number 1, The Boys and Company C, 1978. This film shows how war begins long before anyone reaches it. The Boys and Company C is based on real Marine training and early Vietnam experiences, drawing directly from accounts of recruits unprepared for what awaited them. The first half focuses on training, repetition, discipline, pressure, authority enforced without explanation. The tone is observational, not exaggerated. That mirrors real boot camp experiences where routine strips individuality before purpose becomes clear. When the story shifts overseas, the contrast is stark. Training promised structure, reality delivers confusion. Orders feel vague, objectives blur. Progress is hard to measure. That dissonance reflects first-hand reports from early deployments during the period. What makes this film powerful is its refusal to dramatize transformation. Characters don't become legends. They become quieter, more cautious, more aware of consequence. Sidney J. Furie directs with restraint, letting scenes breathe instead of pushing momentum. Moments of tension arrive unexpectedly, echoing how unpredictability defined the experience for many involved. The Boys and Company C takes the top spot because it captures the invisible transition from preparation to reality. Once that line is crossed, nothing feels the same again. The 1970s didn't give us comfort stories. They gave us truth wrapped in restraint. These films didn't chase applause or easy answers. They stayed close to real events and let time, pressure, and consequence speak for themselves. If one of these surprised you, say which one in the comments. If you've seen one others missed, share it. And if this list changed how you see war films, that question from the beginning still matters. Which stories are we still overlooking?